So the reason why you learned how to do polynomial division, why we spent time doing that, is so you can find all the zeros. That's the goal. That's what the directions are going to say, is find the zeros of the polynomial. So first, your fundamental theorem of algebra says that the number of complex solutions equals the degree. The word complex always throws everybody because it sounds like it's going to be real difficult. Complex just means real and imaginary. So it just means your answer might have I in it. That's all. You square root a negative, you're going to get I. But what this means is the number of answers should equal the degree. So for example, when you look at number 1, what's the degree of this? 4. The highest power is 4. Oh, what's wrong? Oh, go ahead. What's the degree of this? It's got to be 4, undoubtedly. That means you're going to get 4 answers. All right. How about this one? How many answers would you get? 4. And this one? 3, 4, 4. Okay. I make them usually 3 or 4 at the 5 at the very most. Okay. But that's how many answers you should get. No more, no less. Okay. Now you're going to get the first one from the calculator. So what we need to do is turn on the calculator, go to y equals, which is right here, and type in this equation. Your X button is right here. It's right next to the alpha. Do you see that? It says X, comma, T, comma, theta, comma, N. That's your variable key. So that's X. Okay. But everybody just go ahead and type in that equation. Some of you are finishing that up. I know some of you are still typing. Don't hit graph, hit zoom 6. Hit zoom 6. When you go to zoom, and zoom is right here, it's the middle menu button. These are like your menu buttons up here. Do you see this one that says zoom? Zoom, what does number 6 say? Standard. If you hit zoom and then just hit the number 6, it will set it to a 10 by 10 window. That way, if somebody else was using the calculator before you and they made the window something really wacky, it'll set it back to standard. So just get in the habit of hitting zoom 6. We're looking for the zeros. So that's where the graph touches the x-axis. So where does this graph touch the x-axis? That's what we're looking for. There's 2 of them. Can anyone give me one place this touches the x-axis? 4 is one of them. This one you kind of can't tell. Let me show you how to get the calculator to give it to you. Do you see this button right here that says trace? I need to focus on this. Do you see this button that says trace? What's it say right above it? Calc. That's when you want the calculator to calculate something for you. How do you get to calc? Second. All right, so you're going to hit second trace, and we want to find a 0. So go down to choice number 2 where it says 0. Are you all still with me? Okay, hit enter, or you can just hit 2. Now it is going to prompt you here at the bottom. It's going to ask you for left bound, right bound, guess. Where does it look like that 0 is? It looks like it's about -0.5, right? So for your left bound, we're going to put -1, enter. So for your left bound, do -1, enter. Your negative key is right down here. This is one thing you are going to have to get used to. In Desmos, there's no differentiation between the subtraction and the negative, but on here, it will give you an error. This button means subtract. This button means negative. It is different, right? So for left bound, we're going to hit -1, enter. And then do you see how it says right bound? What would be on the right side of that? 0. Hit 0, enter. And then for guess, do -0.5. As long as it's something in between, and then hit enter, and it will come up. So it's left bound, right bound, guess. Hey, what did it come out to? -0.5. But were we certain it was -0.5 until we tested it? No, it might have been something that's really close, but not quite. So it's always good to check. All right, so we have 4 and we have -0.5. Are you all still with me? Okay. So what we're going to do is put 4 in a little box off to the side. We're going to divide it out. This is the coolest part of these problems. You all ready? The remainder will be 0. It's like you know the answer before you even do the problem. It'll be 0 because that is it's a 0 of a graph. Are you following me here? Everyone's just kind of staring at me. All right, go ahead and divide out the 4. Your remainder should be 0. Your countdown appears to be in order. We're not missing anything. Do you get 2, 1, 2, 1, 0? You will get 0. Like the remainder has to be 0. Now, what was the other one? We just did the 4. What was the other one we found? -1/2. You're going to just use these numbers, put -1/2 in a little box off to the side, and do it again. You're going to keep on going. But the remainder is going to be 0. It's great. It's like you know the answer before you do the problem. It's fantastic. All right, so bring down the 2. -1/2 times 2. Be -1, add the column, you get 0. -1/2 times 0 just be 0, add the column, you get 2. -1/2 times 2 would be -1, you get 0. What do you have to do with this? Nothing. It was done. That was the remainder there. Okay, and this remainder also came out to 0. Now here's where you're going to put the variables back in. Before, we had started with 1 less than what we had started with. You know how like if this was 4, we started with 3? This time we're going to start with 2 less. Why? We did it twice. We divided out twice. Are you coming with me on that thought journey? Does that make sense? Okay, so if this was 4, we're going to start with 2. This will be 2x squared plus no x's, which you can write if you want, but plus no x's plus 2. That is what we're left with. Now, we're still trying to find all the zeros. And again, how many answers were we supposed to have? 4. We found 2 of them. Now we need to get 2 more. So we're going to take this off to the side, set it equal to 0, and solve it. Oops. I'm really zoomed in, so remember to move that over. So what would you do to keep working through that? What would you do to solve that? Subtract 2. And then what? Divide by 2. And then last step, square root. What do you put in front? Plus and minus. Square root of -1. Yeah, it would be 1i, which I would just say I. All right, now when you write out all your answers, there should be 4 of them. How many does this count as? 2. Some people even like to write it separately, x equals I and then x equals -I to show that it's 2 answers. You don't have to, some people like to do that. But then what were the other ones? Because we had 2 more. Yeah, don't forget about those ones. These are all of your 4 answers. Let's try it again. Okay, it's how practice works. Go back to y equals on your calculator and don't delete it. I'm going to show you how you can just fix it so you don't have to type the whole thing over again. Yes, ma'am. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. You're just making a list of answers. All right. Do you see this key right here? DEL. That's delete. That will allow you to delete just one number at a time. Do you see right above it how it says INS? That means insert. So if you hit second delete, that will allow you to insert one number at a time. And that way you can go back and just change this equation to the new one without having to clear it all and start all over. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to save you some time. So like I'm going to delete that too. And then you can just type right over top of what's there. Some people like to clear it out and just start all over. If that's you, that's fine. Again, I'm just trying to save you a little bit of time because button pushing is the annoying part. So you're going to hit zoom 6, and we're looking for zeros. So you're trying to find where this touches the x-axis. So what do you see where this touches the x-axis? What does this one right here look like? 5 is one of them. This one, I can't tell exactly what it is. This one, I can't tell exactly what it is, but what's this one? -2. We got 5 and we got -2. Does it matter which one you divide out first? Not at all. Which one do you want to divide out first, the 5 or the -2? 5. All right, put 5 in a little box, divide it out. Hey, kiddos, what's the remainder going to be? 0. If you don't get 0, you know you had a mistake because it's going to be 0. Did you get 1, 0, -5, -2, 0? Okay. And then what was the other one? We just did 5. What was the other one we found? -2. Good. Put -2 in a little box. We're going to divide it out. So bring down the 1, multiply, add. Your remainder will be 0. Did you get 1, -2, -1? Okay, now this is to the 4th. What are we going to start with? Second, because we divided out twice. So it's 1x squared minus 2x minus 1. Off to the side here, you want to take that and set it equal to 0. I'm going to tell you right now that won't factor. These almost never will. So we're going to complete the square. So what would I add to both sides to complete the square? This one's kind of tricky. Yeah, it's not 2, it's 1. 1 is weird because 1 times 1 is 1, but we're going to add 1 to both sides. And what would go in the blank? Like what would be that something? Good, you got it. X minus 1 equals 1 plus 1 is 2. Square root, you're going to have x minus 1 equals plus and minus square root of 2. And then what's your last step? Add 1. So it is 1 plus and minus square root of 2. How many answers is that? 2, but how many were we supposed to have total? 4. So what are the other 2? Because that's 2 of them. We should have 4 total. What are the others? Good, 5 and -2. So those are your 4 answers. I'm going to fill out 3, and when I post it on Schoology, it'll be there. But for the sake of time, because I want to finish some of the harder ones, 3 was the easier question. So I'll just fill that one out for you. All right, go to your calculator and go ahead and type this one in. Do you guys like the insert and delete key? Those are nice, right? Or if you're like, no, I like to clear it out and start over, that's fine too. Whatever works for you, whatever flows. I do want to finish all 3 of these, so I am going to go through them kind of quick. If I go too fast for you, remember I'm recording this and you can always watch it again later, but I do want to make sure I finish them. Does that make sense? Okay. So we're going to hit zoom 6. Where does it look like it touches the x-axis? Hold on a second, it's being a little slow. Oh, you know what? All of those ones are not like perfect. So let's calculate. Let's calculate the first one. How did I make my calculator calculate something for me? Second, yeah, I never know whether to call it trace or calc. Can we decide right now, are we going to call it second calc or second trace? Second trace. Okay, that's what I'm going to call it from now on. And I'm going to make all my other classes do the same thing because you guys just said that. All right, second trace, choose 0. Now it looks like it's right there. What would be our left bound? Good, 0, enter. What would be our right bound? Good, 1, enter. And what would you guess? Just give me something between 0 and 1. 1/2. And then it'll tell you what it comes out to. It came out to 0.3333333333. What is that? 1/3. Put 1/3 in a little box off to the side. If that makes you nervous because it's a fraction, what's the remainder gonna be? It will be 0. Did you get 0? All right, what's 1/3 of 3? 1, good. Add the column, that's -24. 1/3 of -24 would be -8. Add the column, 39. And then 1/3 of 39 is 13, you get 0. This is to the third. So when I put my x's back in, I'm going to start to the second. And we're going to set that equal to 0 and solve it. Now, if you are a good noticer, what do all of these numbers divide by? 3. Divide them all by 3 and it'll make the values smaller, which is easier to deal with. So it'll be x squared minus 8x plus 13. That won't factor. So you're going to have to complete the square. Subtract over the 13. What will I add to both sides? Good, 16. And yeah, I'm sorry, I know I am doing this quick, but I want to make sure I finish. If it's too quick for you, remember you can go back and watch the video. What will go in the blank? Good, x minus 4 equals over here, -13 plus 16 is 3. You will square root, that'll be plus and minus square root of 3. And then your last step is to add the 4. That is 2 answers. How many were we supposed to get total? 3. So that's 2 of them. What's the third one? 1/3. Good. All right, just watch me type this one in. We'll do it because I want us to stay together here. All right, what is it? X to the 4th minus 4x to the 3rd minus 22x squared plus 84x, oh, plus 261. We're looking for where this touches the x-axis. Any day now, calculator. I typed something wrong. That's not what. Hold on a second. What did I type wrong? Oh, there we go. That's not good. Okay, where does it look like it touches the x-axis? Put -3 in a little box. Your remainder should be 0. Oh my gosh, Miss Cole, 261 is a big number. I'm not really sure about that. Remember, you have a calculator. This happens all the time. People get to something like, this is too difficult. And I'm like, hey, you have a calculator. And they're like, yeah, that's right. Because it's been so long since you've had one that people tend to forget. But the remainder will be 0, I promise. Did you get 1, -7, -1, 87? 0? We get to divide out -3 a second time. Why? What about this graph means that we get to do that one twice? Because it's like a parabola, it's bouncing, it's a multiplicity of 2. Go ahead. Or is that a question? Or you're gonna answer that? Okay, I'm slow. All right, so we're gonna divide out -3 again, because it's a bounce. Whenever you get a bounce like that, the multiplicity is 2. You get to divide it out twice. It's a twin. So bring down the 1, multiply, add, multiply, add. Again, the remainder will be 0. It should be 1, -10, 29. When you put the variables back in, what power are you going to start with? Good, y squared. Good, so it'll be 1x squared minus 10x plus 29 equals 0. It will not factor, these won't. You're going to have to complete the square. So what will you add to both sides? 25. This will be x minus 5 squared equals -4. I know this one's going to be imaginary. How do I know already? Because it's negative. You guys rock. Thank you. Square root. What is your square root of -4? It'll be plus and minus 2i, add over the 5. That's 2 answers. We were supposed to have a total of 4. So what are the other 2? -3, and you do have to write that twice. It counts as 2 answers. Otherwise, you won't get the total that you're supposed to get. So Ms. Cole, do we have to write that twice? Yeah. All right, here's the last one. I will finish it, I promise. When I hit graph on this one, it doesn't show up. That means all the answers are imaginary. Does that make sense? You're still going to get 4 answers, but they're all imaginary. You're going to set it equal to 0 and factor it. They will all come out to be imaginary. How would you split x to the 4th? Good. 64 is going to split 16 times 4. Hey, wow, those are both perfect squares. Yeah, I did that on purpose to make it easy for you. They're both plus. 16 plus 4 gives you 20. And then you're going to set each of those equal to 0. You're like, she can't finish this in time. I swear I can. You would subtract 16. What's your square root of -16? What goes in front of the 4i though? Good, plus and minus 4i. And then this one, you would subtract the 4. What is your square root of -4? Plus and minus 2i. Did we get a total of 4 answers? Yes, you got 4i, you got -4i, you got 2i, and you got -2i.